I thought it is helpful for us to be reminded of the five principles because our case studies are not just presentation of the work, but we are using a framework to show that it is social solidarity or community based, and it has the five dimensions in some ways. Some projects might have more, some projects might not have. Now, last week we saw five case studies, and this week we have three case studies from India, one from the Philippines, and one from Indonesia. We are very happy that people have taken trouble to write their case studies or redo their case studies using this outline. And we want to document this, we want to record it in YouTube, we want to use this as teaching material to people who want to learn from us. And so to start off, I'd like to call Rajen Samuel, who now lives in Bombay. I'm sorry to hear from Rajan that his mom is not well and they would have to leave Bombay immediately to go to Bangalore. Our prayers are with you, Rajan, but we thank you for devoting some time to this. Now, Rajan is no stranger to the ASEC group. He has worked many years in India with relief and development work, and then he took on microcredit work both in India, in other parts, in Philippines. He was in Malaysia many years, and then now back as executive director of Habitat. And I think a few years ago, I visited him in Bombay and saw this unique community project. They have so many different projects. I know Sam is here with us as well from Chennai, and he might want to present the Chennai project, which is funded, one part is funded through by Rhythm. But Rajan, thank you, and I pass the time over to you. You've got about 15 minutes, give and take. And then because you are leaving, I might open it for Q&A immediately, but for others, they are staying on. Thank you, Rajan, and over to you. We can't hear you, Rajan.
Open your...
unmute.
Unmute.
Chandra, you need to okay.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dr. Dennison, and also Dr. Benji, for giving us an opportunity to present our case study. And good afternoon to everyone. Like what Doctor mentioned, I spent about 19 years overseas, and I came back to Mumbai. And the first thing I did was, this was way back in April 2014, I visited the slum, the largest slum, which is also in the news for COVID-19, Dharavi slums. It has 10 million people, 10 lakhs, we say, in India, and a lot of challenges. So, and I went and met Dr. Jokins, who's no more now. He used to head an organization called Slum Dwellers International. And so he told me, Rajan, if the people in Dharavi, if they were to use the toilet, the public toilets, they have to stand in the queue for 2 weeks. And so that's the genesis of how Habitat got into sanitation, because we are primarily a housing organization. And then I brought in a wider vision for Habitat India, where we began to look at the whole housing ecosystem, whether it is clean energy, whether it is technology, whether it's social enterprises, et cetera, et cetera. So Habitat has been existent for almost 36 years in India, and we have impacted more than 35 million Indians through shelter-related intervention. And it's very interesting. So we kicked off a campaign called S2S, Sensitize to Sanitize campaign, way back in April 2014, and later it became a coalition. And I'm happy to say that the coalition with 20 members across the country, have impacted 30 million Indians through sanitation intervention. So we had about 6 verticals, waste management, behavior change communication, access to water, individual toilets, community toilets, school sanitation, health and hygiene. So that's a power of coalition, so we started with from scratch and we built the whole coalition. So Habitat we are like a facilitator. We want to be a humble servant, and we
Sorry, sir.
continue
Do
to
you
do
want
that.
me
That's
to
our
check
role,
this
even in
mic?
this enterprise. So this is the case study that I'm going to present. It's in a place called Satewadi, also in Mumbai. And yesterday, I was asking someone, what is the cost of the land now? Because we got 1,750 square feet land, which is leased to the group, the community group. And today's market rate for that land is $1 million. So Bombay, land is gold. 50% of the Mumbai population live in slums. Uh, so I think that's a context. So, you see this happy people, they're happy because A, they're holding the smart card, and secondly, they have access to this community sanitation complex. And we don't call it sanitation, we're calling it community sanitation complex. But a lot of things that happens here when you enter the complex. So we kind of, we had a social enterprise kind of a concept. So we had certain business principles when we discussed this with the community. Number two, we had a revenue generation model. So we told the community that, one of the things I realized, in Mumbai after I started living here, the kids openly defecate. And number two is that, public toilets are not maintained very well and people are willing to pay. And one of the things I told these members, I've been there, I don't know how many times. The first thing I told them is that, you have to maintain your sanitation complex. And the benchmark that I set was tomorrow, if Mr. Ambani from Reliance, we were to cross this slum, and if he decides to use your slum, your sanitation complex, he should be able to do it. So we kind of from day one insisted on quality, number one. Number two, cleanliness. O&M, operation maintenance, is a big challenge in Mumbai, in other parts of the metros. Number two. Number three is that it has to be pay and use from day one. So we kind of created this social enterprise, and it's a very interesting because this is like a debit card, the smart card. So we tied up with the company, and we said, and this happened before demonetization. So people could also top up their mobile phones and do a lot of other things. That's what we are calling this as community sanitation complex. And here we are trying to promote what I call as a 4P partnership: people, community, private, public, partnership. So this is just a glimpse of the sanitation complex, and it's in partnership with Thane Municipal Corporation. So Mumbai is divided into two corporations: Mumbai Municipal Corporation (BMC), and this is CMC, TMC. And you see the complex there on your extreme left. And so it's a men, women, and we have child-friendly toilets. We have even the disabled, differently disabled people can also use. And like I said, you have an access card. And there's something that I introduced called social currency. And I did mention that a lot of kids use they openly defecate. So we said that when the mother takes the child to the complex, she will get 4 points, and the 4 points gets converted as cash, and that was we call it social currency. And with a point, they can see a doctor, a pediatrician, because we tied up with a hospital, so that they will recognize people who have this card because their logo is also on the card. The third one you see is that it's a community-driven, community-owned self-help group, and so they actually even today they manage this complex, and they have a lot of other enterprises that they promote, and we have been helping them to do all these things. So the third floor of the complex is where people use this for their regular meetings. That's what you see on the extreme right. Below you see a girl using the incinerator. So we put an incinerator so that they can burn the sanitary pads. It has got solar panels, to promote clean energy, and also it saves power, so it's a mini grid so that this complex can operate 24/7. Because in most of the public toilets, in Mumbai, is that it gets shut at 8:30. What happens after that? So how do we, how do we make sure that Mumbai becomes an open defecation-free city? And the last one you see the photographs is that I'm happy to say that last year this group, we call it the 4G group, they won the best, the Clean Community Award from the government. The next slide, please. So this is aligned with the principle of governance that Dr. Ben mentioned. So we are facilitators. We give ideas, and like I said, we want to be a kind of a humble servant here. So the 4G group is kind of registered as it's called 4G, which stands for give. First G is give. The second one is to grow. Third one is gain, and then the fourth one is glitter. To take responsibility of the operation, the maintenance of the sanitation, my community sanitation complex, and it's like I said, it's pay and use, and they went door to door. I think we need to create. The demand creation is critical. It's not that we want to build a toilet so that they can come and use it, but it's supply driven. But demand driven is that they need the facility. Therefore, that they should be willing to pay for it. They should be able to maintain it. That's a story of this 4G group, and you see them. And one of them, run a beauty parlor in the slum. There are more than 1,200 families live in this slum, and so they're all entrepreneurs. They're all they run their enterprises, and so that's the first principle of governance. So it is managed, run, owned, driven by the community, and there are 4 leaders. And so we provide all the input to the leaders, in terms of looking at other business opportunities, and if they have to tap into the credit facilities given by the government, by the banks, so we provide all the information to the group. But it is managed, run, and driven by the 4G group. So that's about the governance, because the land belongs to the government. So, like I said, it has been leased to the group for 100 years, and recently we got permission to put hoardings on the top of the complex, so that's another revenue generator for the group. Let's move to the next one. So I think the second principle is principle of ethical values. Number one is that so we advocate for collective behavioral change. Like I said, it has to be demand driven, and they want to make sure that they want to declare Mumbai as open defecation free city, a smart city, and everybody has a role to play. And due to the space constraint, there's always a challenge. You cannot have individual household toilets. So I think the groups are involved. They go around. They sit with the community members, with the community leaders, with the mayor, with the councillor, with the commissioner of Thane Municipal Corporation. So at every level, they're engaging the community, and also I think in terms of the ethical values, what I saw whenever I interacted with these members is that they said there's no free service here. Everybody has to pay. So it's a pay and use kind of concept, and they also are willing to disclose their account. Most we have done more than 15 units in Mumbai alone. This was our first that we launched, and first of its kind in India, having a smart card and and other features. So I think so we help the group that from day one they need to be transparent in terms of the income and expenses, and so whatever surplus money they have, the committee decides on where to use the money and how to deploy all the surplus money, or they've created a kind of a fund which they're they're kind of accumulating some of the profits. They pay the couple who maintain the sanitation complex. They live in the 3rd floor. So I think the ethical values, I think that's important. Transparency and accountability. Next one. Yeah, I think one of the principles is the principle of profit, and what Dr. Ben calls is sustainability. I think that's critical. I think that's where I said from day one, when we were designing this project, I remember sitting with the 4G group and also with my team, and telling them that look, we have to commit ourselves for some key business principles. So you can't ensure sustainability. You can't ensure profitability. If you don't follow those principles, and it has to be monitored and measured. Every time they had this self-help groups meeting. So I think sustainability is critical. One of the things I've learned, in this space, I come from the microfinance world, is if you want to scale, if you really want to make an impact, whether you want to call it social ROI, whether it's financial ROI. But I think, we have to have a clear path, a clear strategy to attain sustainability. So I think that's important. So being transparent with the resources, with the money, whatever they collect, how much they spend, what is the surplus, how much money they are putting into the bank as a reserve fund into their account. All these things are clearly indicated. And the second thing is, like, I mentioned about health. I think health hygiene is so important. As I look back, now with COVID and lockdown, I mean, this is a blessing for the whole community. Because otherwise, how do you maintain social distancing? In most of the slums, including in Dharavi, that's a red spot, hot spot right now, where we have the maximum number of positive cases. Unfortunately, they don't have the facilities, what I'm talking about. So I think health and hygiene is critical for us. And then we, like I said, we tied up with, Somaya Medical College, so that, they used to bring, specialized doctors to offer services to those who are members of this 4G group.
Mm.
Can you put the next slide, please? Of course, it's aligned with the principle of planet. I think if you look at the Sustainable Development Goals 5, 6, and 11, gender equity. It's kind of it's own managed by women. Social entrepreneurs. I call them social entrepreneurs. But it's open for everyone. I mean, the men, everybody uses the facilities, but it is managed. So I think that's important. Ensure full participation in leadership and decision making. Number 2, I mean, goal number 6 talks about clean water and sanitation. So we have 24/7 water facilities there, and and we make sure, and there's a place where they can have shower as well in the complex. The last one I put here is goal number 11. We talk about sustainable cities and communities. So it has to begin somewhere, and these women are the agents of change in the community, and you're really talking about how do we make sure that Mumbai becomes a smart city, where we can declare that it's where we can say that open defecation is we have attained 100% ODF status. So I think that relates to the principle of planet. How we are contributing to the environment. I think solar energy is a good example, and dumping sanitary pads. I think because we have an incinerator, you're able to burn it, and only the ashes are dumped. So you're not dumping your pads into the into the sanitation system. But rather you are burning it off. So I think a lot of pieces that we are trying to promote here, clean energy, green energy, and making sure that we are promoting health and hygiene in everything that we do through the 4G groups. The next one. Yeah, I think it's people's focus. Like I said, it has to be aligned with the principle of people. So it's managed, driven by the people. So if you look at the case study or the quote from this family, it's like a credit card. So access card. So all of them have it. Some of them are putting on they are putting on around the neck. Like I said, it's like a debit card, and so they can get they can top up. They can pay for all the services, and so they can top up their mobile phones. They can pay for services, and if they access facilities from the clinic. So I think it is basically managed, driven by the people. And like I said, we are purely facilitators. We try to bring these people together. But end of the day, it is owned, managed, driven by the people. So people are at the center. We talk about 4 Ps. So people, the community. Then when you talk about public, which is the government. Then we talk about the private. And then we complete the equation. And I still remember when we wanted to build this complex. We didn't have anybody to finance it because it was very innovative. And so I asked my board to advance about 65 lakhs is about $100,000, to build it. And after we built, State Bank of India, one of the public sector banks, they came for. They said, we are willing to fund this project. and so that you can scale it up. So it was a good idea, but we didn't have money. But I took a loan. I asked my board to say, you give me a loan, and we'll make sure that we'll be able to generate income, through this enterprise. But I think for us, if you ask me, well, how come we were able to succeed, in terms of, converting this into a good, viable social enterprise, it's because of people and people's participation. Next one, please. Yeah, so I think, so you see that's a shop there, and you can do a lot of things there. And this is the main entrance on an extreme right. And of course, this is the logo that you see is the Clean India campaign, which is called Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. And that is something that Prime Minister Modi started when he took on the leadership. And the other logo on the extreme left is Thane Municipal Corporation. And today, I'm happy to say that there's a college which is not far from the complex, and we have demand from the college girl students. They want to come and use this toilet, and so they have to produce more cards, and it means more income for the groups. So I think that's in an essence. So I think we have kind of articulated all the key principles of SSE.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rajen. Thank you very much for this comprehensive presentation, and you have tried to link to the various principles of SSE in the way Dr. Ben had worked it out, and also linked it to SDGs. Because Rajan has to leave, I think he's planning to drive from Bombay to Bangalore, so he might not stay on. Does anybody have a comment or a question to Rajan? We'll just take a few minutes. If anybody has, you can, just raise your hand or just speak up. We'll pick it up. Anybody wants any clarification? This is definitely an urban project. Yeah, Dr. Eri?
Yeah, thank you. It's very interesting project you presented, Sam. It seems really like a best practice, a successful project. So my questions is typical directly the questions. Though in this presentations, it seems like everything's going well, but I would like to know what is the challenge actually, because changing the behavior on sanitations is not an easy thing. I want to know from your side what is actually the challenge. And the second, and if this project's running well and seems sustainable economic has been applied also, how is the role of the government then to replicate this model to the another slum area? So this is my questions. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eri. Rajan?
Yes, the first part, a lot of challenges. I think we are not able to scale it up. It's because the government has to give us the land, and the land is gold in Mumbai. In Thane alone, they need about 500 community sanitation units. So if the government is willing to give us the land, then we are able to scale it up. And again, so the second challenge is you need to mobilize the community. So from day one, I think they need to run this as their own enterprise. Like I said, our role is basically we are like a catalyst, we are like a facilitator. So in this case, because of the ownership, because of the drive, because of the leadership of these 4 women, I think they were able to achieve a lot of success. So, and then the other part is, if you look at the public toilet, so this is the community toilet. So the captive audience are your, slum dwellers. 80%, and then there are others who walk in. That's a floating population. But if you look at most of the public toilets in any country, I've used public toilets in Philippines as well. So I think there's a challenge in terms of operation and maintenance. And Sulub is a good example. Sulub does a lot of promote a lot of community, public toilets, and it's fair use. So maintenance is a challenge. And I remember using a toilet in Philippines, which is air conditioned one. And then I think we paid about 100 peso Yeah, and you have all the facilities there. You press a button, you get something there. So I think what I've realized in the urban poor is that they are willing to pay as long as you offer quality service to them.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, Dr. Ben.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to thank Rajan, for gracing this occasion. The first time I met Rajan, remember Dato, was in
Yes.
a prayer, uh,
Pi
gathering that we
prayer.
had
Right.
in
Yes.
that long
1999.
time ago. And my impression, Rajan, is that whatever project you are handling, you can make it viable, can make it sustainable. My question, I have two questions. Sustainable has to be included in the design.
Right.
However, talking to poor people about sustainability sometimes meets with difficulty. So my question on this is, how did you convince, how did you implant in the minds, of people about the sustainability? Now, the second question is, you must have talked to banks, for the, or some corporation for the issuance of this card. Yeah. So how did you negotiate this? Is that a card that is initiated by the bank, issued by the bank or some company? So these are the two questions I have.
Right. Thanks, Doc, for the question. The first one is, so when we discuss with the community, how much are you willing to pay? So we said it's no free service because you will have a clean, toilet with all the facilities. And we also spoke about the value added proposition, that there'll be social currency, and then number two is that there'll be other services that will be added on, onto the cart. So I think, in the beginning, it was very difficult. And since we were working with the 4G group, I think they were able to, convince even the men folk there that we needed this, number one, and that's a need of the hour. Number two is that, from day one, that we need a commitment from the community that they will pay for it. And so they agreed to pay 1 rupee, for every entry, every time they tap, they have to pay 1 rupee. And so I think that's what. So the beginning was to get the buy-in from the entire community. Number two is that they put a threshold of 1 rupee per entry. So each family said, okay, we have 4 in the family. We will top up for 100 rupees, and then as and when we finish, we can top up later. So I think those are the two key parameters that the community agreed, and that is why we were able to push this through. And then your second question was, again, like I said, I took a loan, from from Habitat. I told the board, just give us a loan and we will make it work. And, they actually asked me, how do you know that you'll be able to raise this money? And I said, someone has to take a risk. It was an innovative project, first of its kind in India. And I said, I said, I'm confident that we can sell it because I felt that the people they were with us, and the Thane municipal commissioner who gave us the land is a tech savvy gentleman. He went to Israel for training, and he wanted to have a software which will connect all the public toilets and the community toilets in Thane. And so he was, he was supporting us, and he also said that he'll give us more sites. And so I took this proposal to the board, and then after we built the complex, then I took it to SBI, State Bank of India, and they looked at it and they looked at my financial projections and all the numbers and sustainability index, profitability, and they said, I think it's a well thought through project, and and we were given the money.
Thank you, Rajan. Anyone else? If not, we will move on.
Sir,
Rajan, sure.
yes, yeah.
Yes, Dr. Selvi. Yeah, please.
Hi, Rajan. I
Hi.
am so glad that you're doing such a work in Dharavi. I grew up in Bombay. My brother is running a what they call South Welfare Trust, one organization there to kind of help out. It does something or the other over there. So I just would like to know, the first thing is like how many such facilities that you have in Dharavi?
Not no in Mumbai about 15.
And what about Dharavi?
Dharavi we don't have anything.
Oh, Dharavi don't have
Dharavi,
anything.
yeah, we couldn't get the land, because Dharavi comes under the Mumbai Municipal Corporation, DMC.
Okay.
And so this is the other side of Mumbai, which is called Thane Municipal Corporation.
So if you get, because Dharavi people need such, because
Absolutely.
it's
that is where I started my
really
work
bad.
when I came to Bombay. I visited Dharavi maybe 90 times. I went to see Dr. Jokins, who is no more now. And, so the whole sanitation concept for me was born out of my visit to Dharavi. And so we really want to do something. And of course, right now we are dealing with COVID-19. And I'm happy to say, Doctor, that we have set up a COVID community center in Dharavi.
Okay.
Dharavi is about 5 kilometers from Dharavi. It's part of the, the TMC, where, people who are, infected can stay there. So the whole idea is now for us to move people from Dharavi slums into this center. This center has over 750 beds. And, but, they are trying to convert a stadium as well. I think unless we do that, we won't be able to, deal with the virus, the spread of virus. But
Their condition is quite bad. I don't know, maybe if you could connect with this
Dr. Selvi, Dr. Selvi, we have to move on.
Yeah, we'll take it offline. Sure.
Yeah.
Maybe I can get your contact.
Let's take it offline. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yes,
sure.
what I'll do is, Dr. Selvi, I'll give you Rajan's contact, and I would link you all. Rajan does come to Chennai often, and Sam is from Habitat Chennai. You can liaise with Samuel.
I'm in Chennai. If you're coming to Chennai.
Yeah, Sam, my colleague Sam lives in Chennai. He's on the call.
Okay.
I can connect you with him.
Yeah, sure.
Sam, Selvi, Sam has been attending all the programs here.
Okay.
So thank you very much, Rajan. I know if you can stay, please stay. If you have to rush off, we understand. Our prayers with you and the family, and let's be in touch. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rajan, for the presentation. And we can see how we can document this experience better.